just thought I'd share a little problem I had last night. This was basically what was known as a Clack waste, and I stood on it last night and basically that happened. The top fell straight through. So, with this being a whirlpool bath, we've got a lot of pipe work underneath, so work is difficult. I'll just show you underneath. You can see the trap there, and much pipe work there for each of the jets. I can move them out of the way. I tend to just push them up if I'm working on it, and we can unscrew the trap there. That's the overflow, which I am going to retain. I've disconnected that already. So we'll get some tools and liberate this from the bath and see what's inside it. As the access is incredibly poor, I'm just going to mop it up with a towel. There is a little drain trap behind it, which the leg's obscuring. The problem with that is it's now I'm touching the floors. This is a sunken bath. It's very tricky. Well, I've just gone underneath and removed this. I actually used my swan neck pliers just to get it going, as it was quite stiff. And now that's free, we've just got one more problem, and that is what was chrome still in the bath. So I'll have a think on that. Might try and get the swan necks underneath and turn it if I can. I think that's what I'll do. Well, that didn't quite go to plan. When I put the swan necks on and applied some force, the whole thing just disintegrated on me. I did actually know this was due for replacement. The chrome finish is long gone. This was an eBay special I purchased a good few years ago actually. I've had quite a bit of service out of it, so standing on it were no great hardship. So what we'll do now, we'll just have a good clean up in here, and then we'll focus on installing the replacement. So I've had a scratch round, removed the old sealant, and we'll continue to have a bit of a clean up, both sides, top and bottom, prior to installing the new waste. There was quite a lot of old silicone underneath the back, so I thought what I'd do is I'd just sand it off, as this bath's like a fiberglass resin. It's difficult to scratch it off where needed, so I just rub this sandpaper over, and it tended to do a good job. As I'm cleaning an area with very poor access, I just managed to clean it up by passing the sandpaper over it a good few times, and the little flakes of silicone sealant just gave up, which is quite handy. I'll just finish off here. If you're worried about it, just wear a respirator or a face mask. I've sanded the circumference of it, and a very tiny amount just round the edge, which will be covered by the plug hole. So all the old silicone's removed. I don't have any silicone remover, that is an option. Not one I can do at the minute, but it would have been nice. So here we have the new waste. I only intend to use this part and that part. The trap is the original one, it didn't come with that. So I'm going to refit the old trap to it, and I've got this one from Tool Station, so I'll just put it together. So I've just had a little test fit, just for my convenience, because it's a lot easier out here than under the bath. And that's the waste. Just removes from there. There is actually only one gasket with it, which is a bit disappointing. I was expecting it to have a gasket there. I'll just check the destructions, and it is actually as intended to be. So I think what I'll do, I'll just put a bit of bathroom sealant round the edge just for good measure. Well, I've got some silicone sealant for bathrooms, and I'm going to put a smear round the circumference of this, round the inside, and then there's the gasket, a little bit round the circumference there. And you can actually see how the seal I was describing is not required, because if this compresses through the bath, any water may go past that but then get caught there. But I'm going to gunge it all up for good measure, because I really don't want to be revisiting this. I want to make it leak proof. So I've got a thin smear of sealant round the edge there, and the mating surface is nice and clean. I'll just drop that in there for now. So I've got another thin smear where the gasket goes on. I'll just fit the gasket. Then we'll have another thin smear around the top of the gasket. I'll actually put a thicker smear around that because of the rippled surface of the bath. We're going to need a thicker amount to absorb that. So I'll nip that up. So we've got that fitted. It was quite tricky actually, because if you look at the depth of this bath, you can't really get one hand there and one hand underneath to tighten it up. So I did get a bit of assistance there. We basically screwed the top down as tight as it'd go, and then from underneath, this was held from above, in position, and then I put a quarter of a turn extra underneath just to give it that bit more tension. So I've just got the underneath to connect, but we'll put the finished product in. I've got two things to connect. We've got the trap. I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of things obscuring it. Apologies for that, but there's not really a lot I can do about it. And the overflow, which I am keeping the original overflow, although this does come with one. This one, the one that came with the bath, is a lot more decorative, hence that's why we're keeping it. So I'm going to connect the overflow first, and then, using my best Tetris skills, connect the trap. Something I neglected to mention is do make sure all the seals are in place, because you can see with great ease they can just jump out. There's one either end of the trap, and also that one. So that's everything connected. I'm going to remove the sticker and give the silicone the appropriate time to dry, and then do some checks for leaks, as I would rather everything be leak free before I go to the trouble of replacing the bath side. I need the peace of mind that all is good. Well, it's been a little over 24 hours. I've got a piece of card. I'm going to put that underneath the trap and subject my work to some tests. The first test I'm going to do is I'm going to just run a tiny amount of water just to check the trap. I'm not going to go too mad, just a little bit. So the trap's nice and full. We'll wait a while and check the card. The card's absolutely bone dry, which is great. We'll just put it back in place. The next test I'm going to do, we're going to fill the bath to the overflow height, and then we'll recheck the bath. With this being a whirlpool bath, it is actually a good opportunity to run some cleaner through it. So we've got the bath nearly to the point of overflowing, and we have had a small little leak. I'll just show you it. Cardboard's identified the leak, and what it was just this overflow pipe here. We just turned it fractionally, and then that seemed to cure the leak. It hasn't got any worse. I've been keeping my eye out for further drips. I've been watching this card while the bath's been running. So we're now running to the point of overflowing. Just have a good check round this area. This is actually the old overflow, it didn't come with a kit. It's part of the bath, so we're saving it as I discussed earlier, and you can feel it coming down the pipe. So the next thing to do is just check the bottom. Well, the card hasn't got any worse. We've got us one original drip which is now drying up, so hopefully that nip has done the trick. There's just one very more important test to do before we can close the door on this repair. With this being a whirlpool bath, I'm also checking everything for leaks, not just the work I've done. The final test, what I like to do is to drain the full water. There's a lot of water trying to get out of a small hole. It'll really put all the joints under pressure. And when I do this test, I always like to keep an eye on the trap. So if I do see anything leaking, I know it's not going to go through the kitchen ceiling or anything, or flood the floor wherever your bath's located. So I'll do that now. We are successfully draining down, and as yet I can't see any leaks either on the joints or the card. The card's really good to pinpoint where the leaks are, so it is worth using. You can just use your eyes, but in my experience, for the bit of extra time it takes to use the card, I would do so, because it's going to give you a very accurate location of any leaks. So that's a full bath's worth of water discharged. It's now time to check our piece of card. Just the one drop of water, it is actually drying up. I don't know if you can see that. It probably looks a bit darker in this light. But that is no longer happening. I may put the card back in. So now I'm satisfied that our new waste is nice and dry. Just got one job to do, and that's reinstate the bath side correctly. Many thanks for watching, and why not subscribe to learn of more repair possibilities.